Hello, this is Ballin. This is Bill Dannenauer, excuse me, but Ballin with Bill. It's great to be here tonight, here on a Tuesday night with a very good coach, and known him a long time and respected everything that he's done in his coaching career. Knew him when he was a Gross for very well, and he's went to Creighton Prep and done an awesome job. And I appreciate having him here today, Tim Johnk from Creighton Prep.
Yeah,
it's an
appreciate
honor.
it. Thank you. No, it's awesome to be here tonight.
Because I've always respected the heck out of you and what you've done with your programs and how you work your young men and everything.
Well, we try hard.
The efforts I remember Gross, the efforts when I was at Dan and come out and recruit you guys, and the effort those kids put on the field for you. So
well, that's one thing we always tell our guys. There's one constant and you can always control, and that's your effort every single day. So that's kind of we build our programs around that.
Man in the mirror, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Amen.
That's it.
Amen. Well, let's just start from the beginning. I know you went to Schuyler.
Yeah.
Tell me how you got into football, how you started, and then I know you went to prep. So just tell us a little bit about how you all got started playing ball.
Well, I grew up in Schuyler, Nebraska, small town guy. Started playing football when I was probably in 7th grade, I think. Compared to kids nowadays, they start when they're 3rd grade, sometimes, and I don't know if that's good or bad.
I don't know. My book's on that too.
Yeah, played junior high football and high school football at Schuyler. Had a nice career at Schuyler. Had played with some great guys on some really good teams. We won the state Class B championship in 1986.
You did.
And so had a great experience playing high school football. Just kind of fell in love with the sport. Growing up, being around football. My dad played high school football at Schuyler. My uncles played there. We played a lot in the summer and when we were little kids playing in the lot, which again I don't know if kids do that anymore, or not.
Those were fun days. I'd go back there any day.
And so just kind of fell in love with the game in terms of playing. But I was a multi-sport guy. I also played basketball in the winter. I ran track in the spring, and I played baseball in the summer. And I did that every year that I was in high school at Schuyler. And so I'm a multi-sport guy, and I really kind of promote that to our kids everywhere I've been. I think it's important for them to play and compete and do some of those different things. But I had the opportunity then to go to the University of Nebraska. I walked on at Nebraska. I earned a scholarship after my redshirt year, my spring of my redshirt year. Was fortunate enough to do that, and so was on scholarship my last 3 years at the University of Nebraska. Again, had an unbelievable time playing at the University of Nebraska. Wouldn't trade that experience for anything, and being able to play for Coach Osborne and Coach Solich and those guys down, those legendary coaches, that came through that program.
Who was your DC back then? I knew.
Charlie McBride.
He was a character.
Charlie McBride, and you had Dan Young. You had Milt.
He was my high school coach.
Is that right? Yeah. And so you just had so many great guys and role models that you look up to, and you say, okay, well, what do I want to do? I knew I was going to go into education and wanted to coach, but that really kind of solidified it, and wanting to kind of look at those guys as role models and say, I want to be like those guys and make a difference in young men's lives, and so again had a lot of role models like that. As I jumped into high school coaching and really just the 28 years that I've been coaching have gone by really, really fast, but I've loved every minute of it.
Awesome. Now you played all 4 years, or 5 years. Did you
5 years. I redshirted my sophomore year.
That's what they used to do back because you played your freshman
year.
Team,
played on the freshman team, and then redshirted your sophomore year, and so that's changed a lot, because they got rid of the freshman program. Probably my junior year, I think, was the last year that they had the freshman program. Okay. And I think a lot of it had to do with finances, the financial part of it, just trying to outfit that many kids.
You'd
travel.
You'd get 100 kids out.
Oh yeah, we had 100 freshmen.
We played JV at UNO. We played you were on the schedule. Yeah,
we had 100 kids out.
Right.
When I was a freshman, and I always tell people, I said we had 100 freshmen that came out that year, and on senior day, then 5 years later, we ran out 27 guys. So 27 of us, kind of made it, and you build a lot of mental toughness in that process because it's not all roses every single day.
Yeah, because that sophomore year,
you are a blocking dummy, scout team, and
tackling guy.
Bob Sledge and I, who Bob's my offensive line coach at the university, or at Creighton Prep right now. We played together at the university. We just talked about this today, actually, about how kids, don't understand that part of paying their dues a little bit
Right.
as young kids, and how much better that they can become as a football player by going through that experience.
Oh, it makes you grow
It makes
up a
you
lot.
tough. It does. It kind of makes you, it turns you in from a boy to a man, and I think I respect a lot of those kids that can stick that out and do that, because they become pretty good football players for us.
Yeah, they do. I tell you, just to give the sledge, because I remember when I was a ball boy, Bob and I were for UNO, and my
Yeah.
dad was coaching there. And
Okay.
the Sledge brothers,
Yep, Jimmy and Teddy.
Teddy were the starters on my dad. They were the 2-2 techniques for that 4-3 they run back in that days. And I remember that little Sledge coming out. He wasn't very big. He was a thick little guy, but he was what a great family.
Great family, and
Good football family.
Bob's son is a great player for us right now. He's a sophomore. He's 6'4", 255-pound sophomore.
Them Sledges are
I'm
big
telling you,
boys.
he's got a very bright future, and he's again, he's following on all that Sledge family,
Yeah.
those ties. So I mean, it's fun to kind of get to know those guys.
And it's something, because I remember being a kid out at Rosenblatt, and he came out and it was raining, and they played Walter Payton that time, and they stopped him that year, but it was a rainstorm.
Yep.
But you don't realize they had 3 Hall of Famers on the Jackson State team:
That's
Walter Payton, Robert Brazil, and then Jackie, the big offensive lineman, Jackie Slater.
Slater,
Yeah, all
I didn't
three.
realize Jackie Slater played.
They were all on that team.
Wow, those guys are all good.
Yeah.
good pro football players.
And
Off
Walter
a Division
did-
II team like that.
Walter did everything we sell popcorn at halftime,
Right.
because he kicked off, he kicked extra points, and he did the punt too.
Man.
So when he's running punt back, you got one of the best running backs punting. So you
Sure.
got to watch for the fake punt all the time.
Absolutely, every time. Yeah, I grew up idolizing Walter Payton. I'm still a Chicago Bears fan to this day. So, to talk about Walter Payton, that's pretty cool stuff.
And
right
Miguel
there.
Sayers,
I
boy.
love it. Yeah.
I remember him as
Yeah.
a kid too. So now did you get a chance to play on beyond Nebraska, or not after you finished?
No, I
up?
never did. I never did really have a desire to go on and play at the next level. I played fullback at Nebraska, so there weren't a lot of fullbacks that were being, even courted to come to play in the pros. But now I knew that my football career in terms of playing was going to be over after Nebraska, and that's okay. But being around the game and coaching the game is that's what drives me every day, and it's kept me around the game for sure and loving it.
Awesome. So where did you coach first when you left Nebraska?
Yeah, I left when I left Lincoln in 1991. I graduated and I went to Gross as an assistant coach. So I was at Gross Catholic from '92 to 2000.
Who's the head coach?
Jerry Shank was the head
That's right,
coach
I
at
remember
that time. And
was Osberg with you too?
Osberg was there too. Chuck was there, and so had a lot of great guys and a lot of really good coaches that I learned a lot from as a coach. You come out of college football, and you think you know something about football, and you do a little bit until you have to coach it,
First time I
and you
went
go,
out,
I have no idea what
My
these
eyes
guys are
got that
talking
big,
about.
coach.
Right? Yeah, and so you become a sponge, and you just kind of absorb all of that knowledge, and you just try to learn. I coached on the freshman team my first year. The nice thing is those guys respected me a lot, and they allowed me to be on the sideline and actually be on the headphones during varsity games that first year.
That's a good experience.
It was a great experience, and so to be able to hear the banter and to hear the things on the headphones was really good for me as a really young coach. And I coached some positions that I really wasn't familiar with, which is actually good. And I always tell young coaches this, even to this day, is get out of your comfort zone and learn and coach something that you don't know, because it'll make you a better coach.
Right.
That's the one thing that I did after when I was at Gross till 2000. Then I got my first head coaching job at Logan View High School, which is in northeast Nebraska, up by Hooper. Okay,
That was your first.
that was my first head coaching job. Is in 2000.
I forgot about that.
And at that time, I knew I wanted to be a head coach. I wasn't going to get the opportunity at Gross at that time because Jerry was pretty ingrained. And so, I told my wife, I said, this is kind of the year that I'd like to look around, and she supported. She's the greatest coach's wife in the world. I'm going to tell you that right now. I say that all the time because you have to have that person to support you if you want to go do some of those things like that. And she did. We had a young family. They were little, I have a son that's 25 and a daughter that's 24 right now. And they were, at that time, they were 5 and 3, and so I was dragging them around. And so that was fun. But we went up to Logan View and Hooper, and we lived in Fremont, so I commuted every day. And my wife's a physical therapist, so she worked in Fremont.
Okay.
But had a great opportunity up there to coach for 6 years. I was the head coach. They had only been to the playoffs in the history of their school one time, and so in the 6 years I was there, we took them to the playoffs 5 out of the 6 years that we were there, and I probably could have ran for mayor, and I mean,
Not all
because
bad.
no, it wasn't. It was, and there's still people that I talk to up there and text and communicate with. I mean, they're great people up there, and so it was a great opportunity to build a program, coach kids, and I learned a lot about coaching coaches because I had a young coaching staff.
Oh, I bet you.
And so I had to coach those
Right.
some of those guys too,
Right.
in terms of teaching them about the game, along with trying to teach our own kids. So it was a great experience, and I always tell young coaches, if you desire to be a head coach, don't be afraid to look to a small community and go do that and kind
You
of.
got to do a lot more than
You
one
do.
thing there.
You
Don't
do. You have to do that. I was the AD. I was the PE teacher. I was the head football coach. I coached track in the springtime. I mean, you did all of those things in a small school like that. I striped the field. You just do all of those things, but makes you appreciate some of that too.
Right.
When you get to a position like I'm at right now at Creighton Prep, where you look back and go, you know what, those are the opportunity that I have now is because of the things that I've done,
And Logan View.
leading up to this, right? And so, so I was up there for 6 years at Logan View, and then the head coaching job at Gross came
Yeah,
open.
'cause he went to Omaha Northwest.
Yeah.
didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I had a friend of mine that I coached with at Gross at that time called me. I can remember exactly where I was at the day that he called me and said, "Hey, Coach, our head coaching job here at Gross is going to be open. Are you interested?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I always said I would love to go back to a situation like that because I had a lot of really good friends, great experience there, and they have really Gross is one of those South Omaha schools. A lot of
You
tough.
get the Bellevue kid too.
Yeah, we get the Bellevue kids, the Papillion kids, and those South Omaha
Right.
kids. And there's a toughness about them. There's an edge about those kids that I really liked. It reminded me a lot of my hometown, and the guys that I played with. And so I had that opportunity to go back there. And so in 2000 we went, or 2006 we went back to Omaha. I stayed there for 12 years. So I was there for a
you were
while.
there. I remember
Yeah,
coming and seeing
and
you.
won a state championship then in 2012.
Yeah.
And then just 4 years ago I had the opportunity to interview at Prep and fortunate enough to get the job at Prep.
Yeah. Okay. Now you've been under one of the best coaches in this area. Tom played for him.
Yeah.
You've been around a lot of good football. What have you taken from all your knowledge when you go into a program and you start it? How do you build your culture and all that? I mean, because you do something, and I've noticed that, and you do a nice job doing it. What is your kind of how you you get the coaches behind you? So what do you do to bring that leadership? And
Well, one thing I don't do, I mean, I always tell my coaches, I always surround myself with really good people, and that's one thing Coach Osborne always kind of
that's the
did.
key. I agree.
And so you have to surround yourself with, number one, with good people, right? I mean, people that are going to treat kids right, somebody you can trust when you tell them to do something that they're going to get it done and do that. And then thirdly, you would say, you need a good coaching background, but good people with your coaches. I think the toughest part for going into a new program is just trying to get kids to understand that it's a team, and it's not about you, all right? It's about us, all right? And so, right now we're I've tried to build our programs around the we, and the we is greater than the me, all right? And so to get kids to buy into that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication. The things that you do in the off season, and just making sure that the culture of your program is built around the team and not about individuals. Now, the game is an individual game in terms of individual players making plays and those kinds of things, but you need your teammates to be able to put you in those positions. All right, and so that takes some time. I mean, when I got to Gross, it took us a little bit. It probably took us. It took me 6 years before we got to a point where we could win a state championship. I'm at Prep now. This is my 4th year. We're in the quarterfinals. So this freshman or this senior group were freshmen when I started.
Right.
So this is the full cycle of kids that have come through the program that just know our culture, right?
Right.
And so that consistency, I think, is really, really important. And I think just treating kids with great respect. I think, if if they know how much you care about them, all right, then they're gonna run through a brick wall for you. All right, and I've really been able to get to know kids. I think just going out of the way and getting to know kids, getting to know their family, getting to know their situation. Yeah, I see them on the practice field and on the game field every day.
Right.
All right, I want to know what they're doing at home. All right, how's mom and dad doing? How's grandpa doing? How's your brothers and sisters doing? And I think when you start conversations like that with kids, you start building a relationship with kids and a rapport, and they trust you,
right?
And then they will do anything for you. All right, and at the end of the day, that's what you want. When you tell them, hey, you need to be here at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, because we're practicing tomorrow at 6:30 tomorrow morning. You need to be here. You know that they're going to be here because they trust you. You know, so that rapport and that relationship, I think, has been really important.
Awesome. I've noticed it in your programs, Coach, when you've been out there. I didn't know your logo view. I watched you many times at Gross, and then I've seen you at Prep. And know, being a rivalry of ours growing up West Side, I've known a lot about Prep. So,
right.
But everything I've noticed about you, Coach, is your kids always work hard.
Yeah.
You play hard. You're very aggressive.
Yep.
And the kids seem to give that extra effort.
Yeah, I hope so.
Whether they make a mistake or not, they seem to always come back.
Yeah.
And that's something I've noticed, which I think that's something that you must build year-round in your culture.
Yeah, I think we're very resilient. I think we build some of that, and I think we just the mindset of you just keep playing. It might be not going your way, but it's eventually going to turn. You just got to keep playing hard and keep plugging away at it. And some teams buy into it and some teams don't.
Right.
But I've had the majority of my teams, really buy into that philosophy.
That's awesome. Okay, now you were part of Husker Power and Boyd.
Yeah.
Being out there, what did you take from their office? Because that's something that back in the day they were. Let's be honest. I mean, when I started my first strength coaching job, I went and visited Boyd and Mike Arthur, and that's where I learned my stuff. So, what did you take from that growing up and being part of that program at Nebraska?
Well, the really cool thing is when I was in high school, our head coach was a Husker Power guy, and so everything that they were doing down there at that time, even when I was in high school, we were doing right. And prior to that, they weren't doing a lot of strength and conditioning, at Schuyler or really in most schools at that time. When I got into high school in 1984, 83, 84, there wasn't a lot of strength and conditioning going on. And so when as sophomores then and juniors and seniors, they brought that into our school. And the Husker Power program was part of that. And then you get to go down to Lincoln and obviously be involved in that whole program.
At that time, that was number one facility in America.
There was no question. And they were for a long time after that, until people figued out that, we need to match what Nebraska's doing or better,
exactly
right? And so
everybody fights for those
exactly right. And so you just there's always the core lifts. There's always things that you have to do. The one thing that I think people need to understand is that strength and conditioning has changed a great deal in the last 20 years.
That's the thing. I think that's changed as much as like we talked about technical early.
Yes,
strength and conditioning's changed
big time. I mean, it's not all about how much you can lift, how much you can push, how much you can. I mean, it's not about how much. Sometimes there's a lot more to functional movements, athletic movements, explosive movements. There's a lot more of the explosive Olympic movements that are being done now at the high school level in terms of football and just overall athleticism.
Right.
And you don't have to put a lot of weight on, right? There's still that time where you want to push some weight, right?
Right.
But it's not every day that we're having to do that. We're trying to develop athletes. We're trying to develop athletes that are football players that can move. We're not developing bodybuilders or power lifters or those guys.
Back then, you did build some power. Nebraska had some big old.
And there's there's something to be said for being a powerful person. But if you can't move powerful, exactly, then it's nothing, right? And so,
correct.
So I think that's where strength and conditioning has changed a great deal in the last 15 to 20 years.
I agree.
And the people that have bought into that have progressed and have really turned the corner in terms of their programs. The places that have not have maybe lagged behind a little bit. And so, I feel really good about where we're at. We've made some philosophical changes here the last few years in terms of that at Prep, and I think it's paying dividends for us right now.
I met your strength coach before. Is he still there too?
No, we actually contract out with Warren Academy right now.
Okay,
so
you work with Steve.
So Steve Warren and our strength coach is Dallas Hinkhouse, who's a great young strength coach. He's a former player at the University of Illinois. He played tight end. Young guy. He's worked with our guys since the summer. So, again, we're doing a lot of those functional types of things.
He's big on that. He's changed because that's what he picked up.
Really good. And when we sat down with him and wanted to team up with him, there was no question it was a good fit for us.
Awesome. So they help in your off season.
They do. Yeah. They come out every morning for our guys in season right now, and we're doing our lifting in the mornings before school for our guys. And then once the season gets over, then we'll flip the page and we'll get into our off-season stuff after school. Yeah.
How many days a week do you try to lift now?
We go right now. We try to get 2 to 3 days of in-season lifting with our guys. Right. Yep. Just a maintenance program. Exactly. It helps with our injuries.
Right.
Knock on wood. I mean, I shouldn't say this, but we haven't had a major injury. I know that. That's why I didn't. But at this point, we're in the quarters. And we've stayed healthy, and again, I think a lot of it has to do with our strength and conditioning and the stuff that we've been doing with them.
Awesome. So tell me about, because I know you put in 3 schools now, your offensive philosophy. What is, and it's a hard-nosed, tough, but it's a little bit like Nebraska, but you kind of adapted and moved on.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
So tell me about how your offense has changed through the years.
Yeah, I think we're very multiple now. I think when I every place that I've gone. And everything I've ever learned about coaching has been stolen from somebody, right? And I think every coach would know that, right? Everybody coaches says that, but you try to pick and choose for what you feel like your guys can do and your strengths for your team at every different situation. And so to be at 3 different places, you try to adapt your philosophy and say, okay, well, how are we going to have to tweak this here and there? So. I mean, I'm a run, and I've obviously got a run background, being from high school to college.
You had some good fullbacks at Groves.
We did, and we've got a really good fullback. We've got some good young fullbacks coming. We've gone to more fullback this year. We did not at Prep. We did not have a big fullback
when you
last
first got
year.
There, you didn't.
When I first got here, we had Luke Sims, who was really good
football player.
Well, then he graduated, and so there was a year in there where we just didn't have that. So we went a little bit more one back, and this year we've been able to gravitate back a little bit and come home to more I formation, running ISO, running power, running counter, running some midline options, some of those kinds of things that I really like to do, and then being able to expand that in terms of the passing game, because we can go one back, we can go no backs and throw the football, but still be able to run the football out of those formations. So I think we're multiple enough to where people have a hard time defending us. We've really scaled back, I think, this year in terms of what we're doing, and I think it's paid huge dividends for us because I think we're executing very well. Our offensive line is playing very well. But in terms of philosophy, I think, we've got to be able to run the ball, but you got to be able to throw the football a little bit.
You've had some good quarterbacks.
We have. We've had some good quarterbacks over the years. I had good quarterbacks when I was at Loganview. I had good quarterbacks when I was at Gross. And I've had some really good quarterbacks in the 4 years that I've been at Prep.
Yeah, now when you're at Loganview, how did you? Because you don't get the numbers like you do at Gross, or especially Prep too.
Yeah. You learn how to
your
coach.
Quarterback. I know you do.
You do. You learn how to coach because I remember showing up. And the one thing that helped me as an assistant coach my very first year at Gross, we only had 23 kids out. Now think about this: we had 800 kids in our school. Jerry had just left, and so the program was in a little bit of desire. I mean, it was in bad shape.
At Gross.
Yeah, at Gross. When I took over there in 2006, it was not in a good place. From a cultural standpoint. So we had to revamp that. We had 23 kids out.
That's really
10
smart.
through 12.
That's not good for Groves.
It was not.
Because I got 3 or 4 good kids out there for Dan. That one of them was one of my best players a year and a half. Matt Neeson.
Yeah, exactly.
Heart-wise, tough as nails. He was a great leader. When he came on campus as a freshman, he was a great leader.
I knew because when I left there, he was a young player in the program. He was probably a freshman or sophomore, and I said, that kid's going to be really good. And he ended up being a very good football player.
And
really
for his size, coach,
yeah.
I didn't have a better player
Tough.
out there as far as attitude, leadership, everything.
Yeah. And so we had 23 kids. So I remember as an assistant coach going, and we would do half line drills. So because we didn't have enough kids to go, 11 on 11. We had some kids hurt. Not every, you had a kicker. You just didn't have enough guys. So you end up going half line. So,
right.
So you put half the defensive line against half your offensive line. And so that's what and I'm glad I had that experience because at Loganview, we had to do some of that stuff, right?
Right.
And so those experiences, coaches were able to help me carry over into some of the things that I learned and then take into a head coaching position. And in a small town like that, you just learn how to do that. And so yeah, we didn't have numbers, but you find your best athletes, you find your big kids, you find, it's crazy. You look at that situation and to now in terms of, people go, well, what's the difference between, Creighton Prep and this? I said, well, I mean, obviously you have way more players. I mean, and the depth is just unbelievable.
Because the kids come there to,
yeah. So I mean,
the history of the program.
215 kids in our football program this year. 9-12.
That's great numbers.
It is, and I can't complain about that but when you come to a place like Prep, that's what you hope is that your kid's going to come out and they're going to play, and so it's very competitive. Kids know that. We've got to continue to develop some of our middle level kids, though. I think is important. That developmental piece is trying to get those kids from average to good or from good to great,
Right.
And that off-season programs or the season that do that, yeah.
And then playing those, how this year, with all this stuff, getting those kids their games for freshmen, sophomores, and JV. How's that going along?
Yeah,
because that had to be an interesting thing this year.
It was different because of the COVID and situations, and we had to really divide our kids. We did not have as many kids swinging from team to team because we wanted to try to keep our kids together, as much as possible, so that we didn't have a lot of carryover from one team to another. But our freshmen, both teams had got all their games in.
That's good.
Our sophomores got all their games in. Our JVs got all their games in. Really, we lost one game as a varsity team against Bellevue West when we were quarantined the 1 week. But outside of that, we played all of our games at every level.
That's
crazy.
Not everybody said that's awesome.
We were lucky.
Very, very fortunate.
And again, but I think some of the things that we had in place that we did.
Normally, you'll move kids around on teams.
We did. Yeah. We'd go sophomore to JV. Some A or B kids might swap, and we just didn't feel like that. And our sophomores practiced completely separate this year than they normally have done. They've usually practiced with us,
right?
But they went separate and they practiced on their own just so that there wasn't that.
Yeah. That had to be something because they didn't get that experience to see the varsity.
No, it was a managerial deal and it was tough but you balance it out and you just know you have to do that.
Right.
So it was the benefit. I think we benefited because of that.
Well, the nice thing about it because you got all your games in, that's important for experience and developing of the kids.
No question about it. You can't trade that experience of playing a football game. Because football is kind of a monotonous game in terms of repetition, right?
Yes, it is.
And kids, nowadays aren't necessarily too cool on that. I mean, that's like boring, so those games are so important for them at the end of the week to be able to put that product on the field. Yeah.
It helps them stay with the program and be out there and get better.
Yes.
I agree today because things happen so fast in today's life that they need that.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me about what do you do defensively? Have you adjusted your defense for 28 years, Coach?
I've never I've been an even front my entire time, and if I look back at my time, when I was a player at Nebraska at that time was a 5-2 monster. Right. They were
they developed a 5-2.
They did, and so when I got into high school, especially as a head coach, I just felt like a 4-man front, whether it's a 4-2, 4-2-5, 4-3. I just felt like that was maybe matched up offenses, what we saw a little bit better at that time. And so I've always been a 4-man front. We run a 4-3 scheme right now.
Because everybody spreads you out.
Yeah, a little bit. And so 4-3 really helps us in terms of, facing those spread teams. When you're an odd front, people call it a 3-4 now versus a 5-2 monster, back in the day. So it's really the same concepts, it's the same concepts, but
very true.
They just call it something a little bit different, And there's not as many big kids playing,
really?
So to be able to put, 2 big tackles in versus putting 3 big linemen in, on an even or an odd front, I think it's easier that way, and I think you've got some athletic kids that, our tight end, defensive end type kids that can play in a 4-man front, play off in a 5 technique or a 7 technique on a tight end side. And then we've always got a lot of linebacker type kids, linebackers and secondary kids. I mean, that's the majority of the size of kids that are really playing football right now. And so you try to, find those guys that can run and hit a little bit on that defensive side of the ball. But want to be very sound, want to be able to tackle, and you got to be really physical on the defensive side of the football.
What special drills? I mean, because the game, changed as far as teaching. What do you do as far as defensive drills now that you did back when you were first starting?
Yeah, I mean, we don't do nearly as much tackling live as what maybe we did 15 years ago.
Right.
We've got the tackling rings. We've got bags that we use for tackling. You got the hawk tackling. We call it swoop tackling. It's the same type of philosophy, and
right.
trying to take the head out of football a little bit, which
right.
is, again, I think the prudent thing to do. I think you have to do that. I think there's parents and adults out there that are wanting to hear that you're doing that type of stuff versus that getting your head across like the old days and there's still some, I know, and that's exactly what I was taught, and there's still some people that teach it that way, and that's totally fine, right? It's all a philosophy thing and a belief in what you want to do, but I think at the end of the day, I think if we want to continue to keep kids out for football, I think moms and dads need to hear that we're doing the up and coming things and the newest cutting edge techniques in the game, right?
Right. Well, I tell you what, Coach. Tell me, we're kind of getting close here, but you got a big game. You've had a great season.
Yeah.
And I know you're continuing. I don't want to jinx your thing.
No, no.
You played Millard South tomorrow night.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that. And I don't want you to.
Oh no. Millard South is a fantastic team.
It should be a good game.
It should be a great game, and we've practiced really well. I mean, the one thing about our team, and I've told everybody this, we come out week one and we get our tail handed to us by Westside, which, they had a super experienced team and we had a really inexperienced team. And so when we started the year, we said, okay, well, we'll see what happens week one, and things, got off the rail early, and so, then we turn around and we beat Papillion the next week. And Papillion has got a really good young group over there, a really good junior class, and Tim Williams is a former player of mine at Gross. So
he played for you.
Yeah, he did.
Gosh, dang that, because Tim's a good friend too.
He is. Timmy's a good coach. He does a good job. He did a great job at Waverly.
Yes, he did.
He was at Millard South for a number of years with Andy over there.
Yeah,
those guys. So he's done a great job of over there. They kind of ran into some injuries and some things at the end of the year, and so their kind of season kind of tailspin. But we felt like at that time that was a good win over there because we played over there. And then we lost the Bellevue West game to COVID, so we didn't play that week. So we were on quarantine for 10 days, and so our kids were out of school. We couldn't practice. We couldn't see them. We could Zoom them and try to keep them on, engaged.
That's how was that, Coach? That's got to be hard.
It was difficult. It was difficult because we then had to turn around and play an undefeated Lincoln Southeast team who's still undefeated right now and in the quarterfinals. We had to turn around and play them in Lincoln, and our first day of practice we could have that week was on Tuesday. So we lost Saturday, Sunday, Monday prep, turn around and go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, play undefeated Southeast in Lincoln on Friday.
Wow.
And so we came out and we played our first half of that game. We played like we were still in quarantine. The second half, I think, was one of the turning points of our season because we outplayed them in the second half. We got beat 24-21.
But your points were in the second half, right?
We did, and if we have, they ran a fake punt against us on a 4th down and 8. They ran a fake punt with 6 minutes left in the game, and I think if we stopped them, because it was 24-21 at that time, I think if we stopped them, I think we go in. They ran the clock. They ended up running the clock out at that point.
Gotcha.
So our kids believed at that point that they were a good football team.
Right.
And ever since then, our kids have gotten better every week, and they bought into the process of practice and practicing hard, being physical. We've added a lot of competitive drills into our practices at the beginning to get us to start fast. Best on best stuff for 5 minutes, and it's physical, and we get after it, and then we're on to the next drill. But we've done that for the last 6 weeks, and it's some of the best stuff that we've done. And again, like I've told our team, we've gotten better and better and better every week. And so I'll be surprised if we don't play well on Friday night.
I think it's going to be a good game.
I think it's going to be a heck of a game. And those guys do a great job at Millard South. They're super talented. They have so much talent. TJ Urban at quarterback is such a dynamic athlete, and they're big and physical up front. I mean, we'll have our hands full there, but But I sure like where we're at, and I think our kids are going to fight their tails off on Friday night.
Well, I wish you a ton of luck, Coach.
Yeah, I appreciate
I know
that.
Andy too, but that should be a good game.
No, I
wish you
think
luck,
so.
bud.
And again, it's I think it's the best 8 teams left in
I
Class
agree
A
with it,
football.
Wes,
I think there's and everybody says that Bellevue West and West Side are the elite, and I think they've proven that they're that way. But I think the next 6 are
Wide
as
open.
good, and on any given night, anybody can beat anybody.
That's why you play the game.
That's why we play them.
Turnovers, you never know what's going to happen.
No doubt about it.
Penalty here and there, a
Yep.
mistake, it all can
Yep.
change.
So we're excited about being part of the 8, and we're excited about where our team is at, and it's been a fantastic group to coach.
Well, from way things started, that's accomplishment, and you continue on and hopefully have continued success. But that's what you've done so far.
Yeah.
For what happened that first couple of weeks is incredible.
Yeah, no, it is, and it's been, like I said, it's been a fun group to coach because when you coach, you want to see your kids grow and progress, and man, this team has really done that.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming out tonight,
You
Coach.
bet.
I know you're busy in a big week. You know, I was a pro wrestler, right? So we got to finish with a little hush here. I used to say I should come out when I was wrestling all over the world. Hush, hush. I had boots on and all the wild hair, and I come out and go hush, hush, because that meant I want food or money, not necessarily in that order. And when I was in Japan, I'd chase them around the ring and all that stuff. So anyway, so we're gonna finish with the old hush for the old wrestling days. But I wish you a ton of luck, and I really appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thanks for having me, and man, it's really an honor to be here.
Awesome. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hush! 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 Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Coach.